Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV News. I am Peter, and joining me is Connor. This is our supposedly weekly show where we talk about all the news that's been happening. This is literally the first time since the last time we did the news that we had the chance to record it. But it does mean there's a lot to talk about. There's about 2.5 weeks here of stuffs that's been collected over that time.
There's got to be at least one good thing in it. In fact, I know there's one good thing in there.
Well, I mean, the first thing we're going to start off with was a very bad and scary thing, and then it became a good thing, which is we need to talk about Bob Odenkirk and the saga that was that scary, I think, Tuesday into Wednesday from almost 2 weeks ago at this point, or almost exactly 2 weeks ago actually now at this point. This was worrying. This was, there was reports that Bob Odenkirk had collapsed on set of Better Call Saul. They're filming the final season, and that he'd been taken to hospital. What was concerned about it though, because I think everyone's initial thought was maybe, oh well, they're out in the desert, dehydration, maybe exhaustion. TV schedules are quite tough on people, and he's in his mid late 50s now. But then there was no updates for hours and hours, and it was actually late in the Wednesday because we were recording something. Actually, we were in the middle of recording something completely unrelated to talking about this. I think it was the comics podcast.
I think it was, yeah, because we were doing it on the Wednesday, weren't we?
And I didn't care. I said, no, I'm interrupting what we're talking about. Bob Odenkirk's okay. Because it was going on for so long that it was getting really concerning. But he did have a small heart attack, but he is, making a full recovery seemingly, and he was tweeting himself within a couple of days. Other people were saying they'd spoken to him. But not only was it silent for probably 18 hours or something like that, there was also, friends and other celebrities who knew him who were tweeting things like, pray for him and things like that, which made it sound very ominous and very serious. And I'm sure they didn't mean to imply anything that they didn't, or that was worse than they knew. It was hard not to get a sort of overall impression from the vibe that was going on.
I mean, he did have a heart attack. They tend to be, even a small one's not good.
Yeah, but I do wonder how much of it is a lot of them not even knowing. Like, they're just in the same boat as us, so they're just being positive, try to be hopeful, and all the rest of it. But he is. I mean, obviously, he put out a great tweet. Maybe like a week later. This wasn't his first tweet. He tweeted some, general nice things before then, but
just a wonderful life one.
Yeah, basically saying that I've seen everything everyone's saying about me since this happened. But honestly, it's maybe raising the bar too high. I don't think I'm that great, so maybe lower your expectations a bit. I don't know if I can live up to all these nice things that everyone's been saying. So it was a nice sentiment. So luckily, this had a happier ending, and they'll be giving them time to recover, I assume, before they get back to shooting the show.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident they will.
I don't know what the standard sort of time someone is given when they survive a heart attack, but
I think it depends on a few things. One, how bad it was. Two, how strenuous is your job?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine you can go back and sit at an office a lot quicker than you could if you had to, I don't know, pick a physical job. Construction.
Luckily, he's not playing an action hero in Better Call Saul. Although
not in Better Call Saul. He did just do one though.
He did just do a movie though. I wonder if is that movie like the blame that got you stress levels and all that adrenaline.
He was thinking of transitioning into a Liam Neeson style elder career, and now he's like, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'll take the city and standing around roles. No need for these stunts and whatnot. But nice to get a happy ending on that one.
Definitely.
Yes, and I am about to click on to the next story. I am just being a little delayed by my cat being adorable.
Just throw the cat out of the way.
And getting chin scratches, and I feel really bad about taking my hand away. So there's a little bit of a delay before we get to news story number 2.
Is it the good one?
And for the video people, I'm sure are enjoying the visual, but the show
I'm not really seeing much. Most of it's behind the mic.
You could see him getting his chin scratched. He's a happy cat. All right. This is not the. I don't know what the good one is you're referring to, but I highly doubt you're referring to Snowpiercer being renewed for season 4 by TNT.
Already?
Well, season 3 is just wrap production. Season 3 is not aired yet, so it's a fairly it's a fairly early renewal. And keep in mind, they renewed it for season 2 before season 1 aired as well. So they've been very far ahead with their full steam ahead, as it were. That was golden, you know it.
No, it was not. It was
nothing.
tedium.
Nothing stops this train.
Look, this is my first drink of the day. I'm not prepared for this amount of shit puns. No, I mean, I don't really care much about Snowpiercer at this point, but I was surprised then, that they're that positive on it.
Yeah. Apparently for TNT's metrics, it's doing well. Speaking of renewals, Sweet Tooth got renewed for season 2 at Netflix. So if you enjoyed season 1 of Sweet Tooth,
doesn't surprise me. It seems like there was a lot of people watching it.
So that's cool. I was going to make a cynical joke about it only lasting 3 seasons, but to be honest, given the length of the comic run, that actually might be about right.
That's probably about fine, yeah.
So fair enough. But Netflix, hard to trust them these days when it comes to...
in some ways, maybe that's the sort of content Netflix should be looking at adapting. Those kind of limited, okay, we got a couple of seasons worth of story out of this. We can get in and out. We can commit to a few seasons without it feeling like a big commitment. And, everyone wins.
Yes. But more importantly, the Mighty Ducks Game Changers has finally been renewed for season 2.
You're holding your breath over this one.
I enjoyed season 1. I was hoping they'd come back. So,
fair enough.
Happy days. Yeah, they're going to start shooting this in early 2022, so I'd probably expect, which makes sense, assuming they always want it to be set in winter. If they're shooting it in January, February, maybe a bit into March, okay, they'll shoot it then. It'll come out maybe late summer or something like that. It's hardly a show with a lot of FX and.
I wonder if they're smart and release it around October, which is kind of the start of hockey season.
Didn't do that this year, but
No, but this year, in general, Disney Plus is still new enough that they just need to get the content out, right? But they're going to get to a point where they can choose when they want to time some of their release dates to be a bit more strategic, and maybe that's one of them. But who knows?
Good job stalling on something you don't know very little about.
I've watched one episode of this show. What do you want from me?
Look, the cat needed to get out when the cat needed to get out. There's not much I could do.
Should have thrown it out 10 minutes ago.
So, next up, Why the Last Man? Not only do we have a premiere, I think we actually already had the date. The September date was already locked in, I think. But we have a trailer is the big thing. Proving that the show in some fashion exists.
And it's called Why the Last Man.
Yes, they've finally dropped that stupid notion they had to just call it Why.
As the worst thing that they could have ever done. Also, I did notice just on the release date, it says exclusively streaming that day. It doesn't say starts that day or anything like that. I wonder, are they dropping the whole season?
I don't think they're dropping the whole season, especially since because FX, Hulu in general doesn't tend to do that anyway, and that's kind of the platform that FX is now tied to.
Hulu has done it before, though.
And a couple of exceptions, but not across the board. It's not their standard tactic. Plus, I'm pretty sure this is one of the shows that is officially going to star on Disney Plus internationally as well. And their MMO tends to be weekly, so I would say all points still.
Fair enough. It was just vague enough wording that I was just unclear, and I was just wondering.
But yeah, it looks all right. It's hard to get a read on, say, the tone that it's, because one of the big things about Why the Last Man is just how it feels as you're reading it, and the tone of the world that it's set in. But certainly this trailer sets up the key plot details of the beginnings, which is all the men die barring one, and it hints at the conflicts in the sort of the wake of that, and all the women who are left and trying to just deal with the logistics of how does this world work now with half the population having just died. Especially when you consider that certain professions, the percentages of them which were men versus women, and now what professions are just almost absent because of that, and things of that nature. So there's a lot of interesting ideas. They're all from the book, obviously, but I kind of was getting a sense of some of that just looking at the trailer and like some of the quick snippets we get of their disputes. The idea that there's groups that are basically refugees now. They don't know what to do. We obviously have an acting president who's presumably just the one who was highest ranking when everyone else died.
That's usually how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. So, some interesting stuff there.
I will say, like, I agree with all that stuff being interesting. Maybe it's just it's not coming through in the trailer, but it felt like it didn't have a lot of style as a show, right? Nothing interesting that set it apart at all.
No, not from the trailer. It's one of those things though where it's cut pretty quickly, so it's just I could totally see it having more of a feel, especially once you add in, because we have no sense from this what sort of music it's going to have or anything like that.
It's why I don't want to. I'm not judging on that. And as I said, it is just a trailer, but I didn't get there was no obvious visual distinction or anything like that from this trailer.
You got Diane Lane though as the acting president, so we got a little bit of star power, and she was always attached, even the original pilot before they redid it all
for a long time. Yeah,
she was in that role, so they were always high on having her in that part. So presumably they believe in at least that part of it. But I mean, it'll be interesting to finally see this, just because it's been such a long ass time coming.
It's been years.
I mean, it's been over a decade at this point since I read the entire comic book.
It's probably been about a decade since they started trying to move it onto TV.
Oh no, it's been in the works since like 2008.
Yeah, there you
go. So finally, it's arriving. So this, because I mean, I don't know if literally every single FX show is going to star on Disney Plus internationally now by default, but certainly the majority of them are. And I think this one was specifically mentioned back when they revealed their first list. It was this and the Alien show that stuck out. So that's interesting. It's interesting seeing how that fills up with content that's maybe different from the Disney Plus side of things as time goes on.
Exciting stuff to have there, like just have some variety, right?
Yeah. So that's cool. There was a short teaser for Stranger Things season 4, but the important part of this is the 2021 dream is dead.
You were convinced for probably a year, maybe longer, that it was coming for Christmas.
That was my guess. That was my I don't think unreasonable hope.
January 1st, it's coming.
I mean, there's no obviously date.
There's not. I'm just showing you. It's just you as close as it could possibly be to your guess, but still be wrong.
Hey, I'd only be a week off if it was January 1st. I'd be, which is an insanely close guess. It just sounds bad on paper.
It does, yeah. You didn't even get the year right.
But yeah, they confirmed it's coming in 2022. Which the last season was July 2019. Just to put it in perspective, the gap here.
Can I make a confession?
Yeah.
I'm kind of losing interest. It's been like that long.
I think you'll see a trailer.
No, I'm sure it'll be fine once I get into it. But I'm like, it's been so long since I've watched any Stranger Things now that I'm like, yeah, okay.
I mean, it's been so long. I don't think. Actually, Joe, I wonder. This is what I wonder. I wonder if they had to reshoot some stuff, because I know they had to pause a few times during the pandemic, so it's not all on them that it's taken this long, obviously. I mean, presumably it would have been this year. At least...
Yeah, they shut down for months, haven't they?
So it's not their fault, but I wonder if they had to reshoot significant portions of the season because of the age of the cast and how they're changing so quickly. I wonder if they came back after months of a break and went, oh shit, one of them looks too old now versus all that footage we already shot. We're going to have to redo those scenes. I genuinely wonder if there's going to be some of that. Obviously, some of the older teenagers like Steve and Maya Hawke's character Robin, and I'm sure they were all fine, but the honestly, younger ones,
I would suspect most of the core cast are okay now because they're mostly in their late teens at this point.
They are.
It would be more like the younger sister, for example.
Oh, sure,
Once you get to that, it's like, okay, that's where you start being a bit, you're pushing it.
I think a lot of them are 15, 16 when season 3 came out. So if they were already like 17 pushing 18 by the time they started shooting season 4, then yeah, maybe. But
Yeah, because
I don't know
I know
when.
the what's the main guy one? You know who's been in like a lot more other stuff than the others. He's like 18 now, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, it's like, oh yeah, you could probably fudge that and get away. It shouldn't have changed that drastically. Nothing that a good hair and makeup department shouldn't be able to solve.
Yeah, I just wonder. Yeah, there's a short tease. It's mostly just footage of the old stuff. There's a couple of quick glimpses of new things. There's like Hopper in like a colourful tracksuit or something like that, and 11 looking perturbed over something. But it's a show. There should be a threat. There should be some perturbance.
It would be weird if none of them were perturbed.
So, it's neat. I'm looking forward to it. It's like maybe the last Netflix original thing I give a shit about, because like nothing they've launched or like previewed in the last year has been remotely interesting. Really. Sweet Tooth, I suppose, actually was at least interesting on paper, and it was okay. It was fine. I watched the first couple of episodes, but I was just kind of like, I don't really. It's not. Had that Netflix pacing. I was like, you know what, there's nothing wrong with this, but I don't know. I'm feeling this lack of urgency in the storytelling that it's
a real shame.
Yeah.
Like I say, it wasn't that long ago that Netflix have a new show. We're interested.
Well, if you go back to like 2016, 2017, their new shows were Mindhunter, the OA, and stuff like that. Like, they were genuinely really interesting, really unique stylistically, and now it just kind of feels like they're churning out content.
Yes, I think the word you were looking for before was expensive.
Not necessarily. I don't think it's just an expense thing.
Maybe not just, but I do think that's part of it.
I think anyone can boil it down to that. Mindhunter came from David Fincher, the OA came from Brett Marlin, it came from creatives, and I don't think that the OA had that much of a budget, versus some of the other bigger Netflix shows. It's just that
that's fair.
It's just a focus. It's just a creative side of things. It kind of feels like Netflix originals now they've fallen into this slump of not being the interesting place for new original content. Now Amazon tends to have it doesn't feel like Netflix from 2016, 2017, but it feels more likely to get something interesting from them.
Yeah.
And a few other places too. So.
It feels like Apple threw a lot of money around to at least have interesting sounding stuff coming. I wonder if maybe they threw enough money that some of those creatives that would have made Netflix shows went there instead.
Yeah, I guess it was bound to happen, because Netflix did get a little head start where they were the only streaming service really making big, proper TV shows and movies. Not for long, for like 2 years maybe 3. But then all of a sudden, Amazon were stepping up, Apple are existing.
I mean, Amazon, in terms of upcoming shows that we know about, Amazon definitely have my most anticipated show, which we will be talking about soon. To hint for your news, if you happen to have missed something. It's in the release date section.
I'm not revealing anything here. Stop trying to...
It's fine, it's in there.
Stop trying to be coy with me. So it makes sense that everything sort of dispersed through all these services, and I didn't even mention HBO Max, which now making original content on top of what HBO are already doing. It's kind of funny though. It's almost put HBO back on top as being like, not that everything that comes out from HBO is something that will necessarily appeal to me or love, but in terms of quality, it feels like HBO's back at being the top of the mountain a little bit, because Netflix got deleted. So now we're like, HBO is still probably the most likely place for high quality.
Yeah, you might be right on that.
Yeah, just as we're somehow back to that. I guess HBO just had to stick the course, just never waver, just stay on track. Yeah. Like Snowpiercer. So. Here's some good news. Premiere date and teaser for Doom Patrol Season 3, baby.
Yeah, and it's, if I recall, not that far away, yeah.
September 23rd. I think it's very close to
about 6 weeks away, right?
If I remember right. Yeah, no, this is great news. That's the Joe's killer about this is that obviously Superman and Stargirl are back. In fact, by the time this goes up, they're already back. Superman obviously got a couple of episodes left, so we'll actually have overlap with Stargirl and Doom Patrol. which both are
like 3 DC shows back to back, which have been, assuming Stargirl maintains quality. Doom Patrol, I have no worries about, but assuming Stargirl maintains quality, that'll be 3 great DC shows back to back.
Yeah, and just to think, Stargirl and Doom Patrol from CW and HBO Max, when both of them originated in the DC universe. Remember that thing? Yeah, it feels like an eternity ago at this point.
Or Titans.
And that's coming back too, to be fair.
It is. But it's probably not coming back for long after that.
They keep announcing new things. Now, I didn't really want to spoil anything in this minute-long teaser. I just kind of skimmed through it. The one thing that I saw quickly was, I believe, Mala from Mala in the Brain.
Oh. Interesting.
And this was like one frame. But it looked alright from the one frame. But I mean, again, if I was watching it, pay more attention. But I was intentionally not wanting to see much.
You will do when it airs.
Yes. I was intentionally not wanting to see much. I was just kind of trying to, get a flavour.
That's one of those shows that I haven't thought about that much since the last season finished. But now that it's coming, I'm like, ooh, I do want more of that. I'm like, that I'm like, I can't wait for more episodes of that.
Okay, I've sussed it. I've got the premiere date that I think you're looking for. This is the one you're excited for. Hawkeye, Disney Plus. It's coming for Thanksgiving, November 24th, which is a Wednesday. I assume 25th is the Thanksgiving.
I would assume so, based on that, yeah.
So that's when Hawkeye is launching. So a little bit of a gap from the previous big live action show, but I know What If's airing in the meantime.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of filling the gap a little bit, at least for some people.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons to be excited here, namely Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld, Florence Pugh, who was by and far the best part of the Black Widow movie, which is not a very good movie, but she was the best part. So it is interesting to see them potentially chumming up.
I mean, that is 2 pretty great actresses together, so
yeah. I have to admit though, the track record of these Marvel TV shows for me personally at this point, is pretty lackluster. So
yeah, but Kate Bishop.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful, but I don't want to get too excited because I've been somewhat let down. So far I would say that it kind of feels like the Disney Plus Marvel shows feel like movies that are slightly stretched out to fill a longer runtime and don't feel like they've got the more added depth that you should have from having like 6 episodes instead of 1 2-hour movie.
Do you think for the most part then that you would have preferred them as just movies?
For the most part. I think WandaVision was unique and it's definitely the best one. I think it fumbles a bit at the end by having it just turn into, big fight scene kind of thing. But Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think, would have both benefited immensely from just being cut down to a 2-hour tight story rather than having to find excuses for an extra 40-minute episode in the middle and things like that. So, but hey, here's hoping Hawkeye pans out. What's next? I really have time for this one. So it's the Lord of the Rings, something.
Yeah. Give us the details.
All right. I mean, this one's a long way out. Admittedly, this is over a full year away. This is September 2nd, 2022. Is the launch?
Yeah, I am shocked at how specific they got with that date, rather than just it'll be late next year.
Do you know what it is? It's they want to. There's an element of hype and sort of like prestige that comes with like stamping something this far out, this exact. You see it sometimes with movies, where a movie will get a teaser trailer a full year in advance and it'll say it's coming on this date, and it's like, you can mark your date. It's like a wedding. Save the date because this thing's coming on this date.
Statement of intent.
Yeah. So, and honestly, they've spent so long making this goddamn thing, I believe they're going to hit this date. So
I have no doubt about that at this point. And it's far enough out that even if it's not finished now, you've got a year. You'll be fine, right? They did release like one teaser image with it, which is actually super interesting.
Is this the circle of text?
No, it's like a shot of like the city, and there's like a couple of people in the foreground.
Oh, I see it. It's at the bottom of this article. I see it.
What's really interesting is if you look just to the right of that city, you can see kind of vaguely like 2 trees in the light. They're kind of a little bit hard to make out.
I see one. Is the second one meant to be white?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
fine.
they are gold and silver, respectively. It doesn't show in that lighting, but we assume they are gold and silver anyway, based on that image, which is super interesting because those are the a little bit, Lord of the Rings nerdness here. Those are the two trees in Valinor, which one tells us we're in Valinor, which is interesting itself. And two, what's really interesting about that is everything we've been told about this, from unofficial things to as explicitly official as the Twitter page was allowed to get. It was going to be set in the Second Age, and kind of roughly be telling the story of Sauron's rise to power ish. But those two trees were destroyed like before the First Age. They're like ancient history, even by that standard. They're like thousands of years ago. So, like, are we playing with a lot of flashbacks, like, or is it just like an extended like prologue sequence, like in the in the movies? Either way, it was such an interesting choice to reveal that as the first image when it kind of goes against everything that they've told us about the show so far. I know you don't care, but I promise you this is interesting for Lord of the Rings fans.
Mm-hmm. Right. How did they get destroyed? Did the Snowpiercer train mow them down? Lord of the Snowpiercer cinematic universe. It's coming.
Probably better than the Snowpiercer show, just by the rights of having that title.
Another premiere. With a teaser. This is Dear White People's final season. Volume 4 is coming. What's so interesting about it though, which is it's coming September 22nd. Not September, a lot of stuff
That's
in September.
A busy weekend, or I'm assuming it's a weekend around then.
Yeah. Is that season 4 apparently because it was focused is actually going to be at least in part, if not entirely, a musical, which is a bit of a swerve.
How to make sure Pete doesn't return?
Yeah. Well, I mean, season 1 and 2 were really good. Season 3, no one watched their first review of it, so we just kind of stopped it. But it was a good show. So this is kind of an interesting take on it. But apparently it's inspired by Afrofuturism and the 90s. And it's their senior year at the college, and yeah. So I don't know how much of it. The teaser trailer has some singing and dancing in it. So, I mean, they got a final season, and I can't imagine Netflix expected the creator to turn around and say, and we're going to do it as a musical, which is going to cost twice as much. So, but neat for people who are looking forward to the final season.
Unless you hate musicals, and we're looking forward to it.
Yes. And we're looking to wrap it up. I mean, I don't know how heavy it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be like, a few songs throughout the whole season, or is it going to be like every episode has got like 5 music numbers?
Yeah, it's not going to be a through musical.
Yeah. So, hey. Next up. Here's something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Who, there's a big shake-up coming.
There is a big... Oh my god, this feels like such old news that I forgot we hadn't spoke about this.
Yes, Jodie Whittaker's leaving, as is showrunner Chris Chibnall after some specials in the next year, I think it said. So...
Yep.
Yeah, so you gotta have a new Doctor and a new showrunner, assuming they're not cancelling it, which, they might.
I find that unlikely. Especially as by the time that comes up, they'll only be a year or two away from the 60th anniversary.
Oh, yeah, they want to make a big deal. So they'll probably take a year off and then have the big return for the 60th.
Probably. What's really interesting is that because these specials are like, they're calling them specials, but in a lot of ways they're the back half of the next season. I think that when they're looking at the contracts for how many episodes they signed, I think it'll work out that way because the next season is actually shorter. It's only 6 episodes, I believe, instead of the usual 10 to 12-ish. And I believe they mentioned it's all like one story. These 6 episodes, like a 6-part miniseries, essentially, which is unusual for Doctor Who.
Like Torchwood's season 3.
Which Chris Chibnall was the showrunner for Torchwood. So there's some history there that maybe that's where it's come from. But interesting stuff for sure. And then the specials. I mean, Tennant obviously ended his run with a bunch of specials, and a couple of those are some of the best episodes of all of Doctor Who, at least in my opinion. Some of them are just fine, but some of them are the best. So, yeah,
We can move on. I have nothing to add.
No, I'm shocked.
Sticking with some sci-fi stuff though, Alex Kurtzman, who's currently the sort of like spearheading all of the current Trek material,
The architect.
all the TV shows. He has signed a new deal to keep him in that position through 2026. And I saw a quote tweet from Red Letter Media. I don't usually bring up other YouTubers and stuff when I bring up stuff in the news, but
they're kind of big enough that I don't think it matters what you say.
oh, I'm not going to badmouth. That's not me covering myself. I just don't usually bring up other content creators just out of not because I'm going to say bad things about them, just because it's weird. But in this case, I appreciated the tweet. I assume it was Mike from Red Letter Media who quote tweeted this. The headline being that Kurtzman's going to be there through 2026, and their quote tweet was simply, "I'm looking forward to 2027." And
very ambitious, but bold of them to assume that it won't get extended again.
It's just hope, right? Just it's hope. It's Kurtzman is not a great storyteller. Everything he's been involved in, pretty much, in movies and TV, along with his partner in crime, Ortsy, although they split up, they had a divorce, but they were together for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, has not filled me with a desire to keep him around. Not that it's all been garbage. There's been some good things in there, but by and large, it's not necessarily what we've wanted. And
this deal tells us that even if we don't not enjoying a lot of it, and maybe critically, it's not that hot all round.
Mm-hmm.
It must be doing well, in the raw numbers of it for them to be making this offer. Otherwise, they'd look elsewhere and advertise a big shakeup.
Yeah, we're stuck with them though for another 5 years.
It's that long.
That's so depressing. That's like 4 more seasons of Discovery, the final 2 seasons of Picard, Strange New Worlds when that starts with the Pike show, and then I'm sure there's at least another one.
Section 31.
Yeah, there's that one. And no, I mean it's 5 years. There's probably going to be another show or two starting up in that time as well, given the current
Well,
rate.
we know they've said they want year-round Trek.
Yeah,
there will be more shows. That's the only way they can achieve that.
I wonder if we'd already be there if it wasn't for the pandemic slowing everything down. Because they were getting close, at a certain point,
weren't they?
But Discovery season 3, Picard season 1, and Lower Decks were all pretty much back to back, so they were getting really close with fulfilling that.
Yeah.
So yes, there you go. Kurtzman's reign of terror will continue for some time. Quick update in the Paper Girls TV show. One of the co-showrunners is leaving the show, leaving the other co-runner as the sole showrunner of the series. This is in development at Amazon, based on a Brian K. Vaughan book, which of course is also what Why the Last Man, same writer. So interesting to get this news this week. It doesn't sound like it's anything super dramatic or anything like that. Obviously they're not left without a showrunner because there was 2 anyway. So they haven't really given like a proper reason for it, other than just stuff they are. They're already. I mean, it's already filming, so I mean, a lot of the developmental work of season 1's already done. So
I would assume you won't really feel much of this impact until season 2, then.
If at all.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was co-showrunners, and because it could just be a case of they're to help get things running and give the other showrunner kind of like a I don't want to say a training wheel. That's a bit maybe harsh, but
no, it's something we see in comics a lot, right? Where you have like a co-writer who kind of gives you the story outlines, and then someone else goes away and actually does the hard graft of writing it.
Yeah.
But they still get the credits. I assume maybe this was something like that.
Yeah, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's just it might have been planned. It might not have been planned, but maybe it's the case of, hey, you don't need me anymore. I'll go and make another show, and you continue this one. Or maybe there's big drama. I don't know. Maybe they hated each other. Maybe there's like juicy news here. I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, I hope we got to keep the good one.
This is very true. The Shining series Overlook from Bad Robot, which was in development at HBO Max, is no longer going to happen there. They have decided to pass on it, but apparently they are close to finding a new home for it. So it's still looking like we're going to end up with this. The most likely destination, according to Deadline's like scuttlebutt, is Netflix. Which, yeah,
That's interesting. If I'd have just based on what it is, it felt like Hulu to me. Like that's kind of like the sort of place it would end up. But
none of this really matters in the grand scheme of things. But given that it is related to The Shining, which is a Warner Brothers movie, and then they also had Doctor Sleep just a couple of years ago, I would have expected HBO Max to be all over this.
I would have too, and it's actually a little bit concerning about the quality of the show potential that they're not, right? Like why would they pass on that? That seems like an obvious hit where you've got, a name that everyone is familiar with.
Maybe it's just not enough like The Shining, and they don't think it's is easily marketable because of that, or maybe it's too art house or cerebral. I'm thinking of reasons that it could be good in the long run, where the show is just great, and they just didn't want that. Yeah,
no, it is possible, but you gotta wonder, right?
So I don't know what to feel about it. I mean, I don't necessarily need an Overlook TV show, but obviously I'll try it when it happens, because why wouldn't I? But so looking for a new home, but Netflix seems likely. Which I wonder, that maybe halves the budget as soon as they go to Netflix. But hey, if they got one hotel set, maybe they don't actually need that much money, really.
Maybe not. And to be fair, like we obviously shit on Netflix a lot tonight for some reason. Budget is often not their problem. It's rare that I watch everything and it's all the budget is the thing that's the problem here. It's usually writing and pacing issues rather than the budget.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you feel it that it's maybe a little too standing room talky. Some of the shows that shouldn't be. Like, I remember watching season 1 or half of season 1 of Punisher and just feeling like it was just nothing but scenes of two people in a grey room talking to each other for 10 minutes. And then, there's another scene with two people in a grey room talking to each other for 10 minutes. It kind of felt like that constantly. But hey, this is, by its nature, got one setting anyway, so this should actually, hopefully, be alright. We'll find out. So that's some stuff that's been developed. HBO's put in development. If You Live With Me, You'd Be Home By Now. A half-hour series inspired by Annabelle Gurwich's Los Angeles Times article, and corresponding chapter of her recently released book, You're Leaving When? Adventures in Downward Mobility. So, written by Gurwitch, the series, recently divorced and at the end of her financial and emotional rope, a woman takes on boarders, who are at the end of their financial and emotional rope, and everyone's life changes, for better and worse. Not a lot to go on. If anything, it sounds a little more like a sitcom.
I was going to say, that is a very almost traditional sitcom premise.
It being HBO makes me think it's going to have more of a bite than it otherwise would on a regular network. It's not going to just feel like a regular network sitcom. It'll feel like a HBO show still.
Probably, yeah. Most of their comedies do it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, here's something I know you're excited for. You're all over this.
I'm just getting the drink at the ready because I'm sure I'm gonna just hate whatever this is.
Because I know you really, really want more Waterworld.
God, I saw this news article. I was like, I'm not even clicking on that. I'm not even giving this shit the click.
So yeah, Universal's 1995 movie Waterworld, starring Kevin Costner, is getting a TV show coming from producer John Davis and his Davis Entertainment, working with UCP, which is Universal Cable Productions. The series would pick up with the film's characters 20 years later. No platforms attached, but sources close to the project say it could potentially be set up at a UCP sister streamer, Peacock. So yeah, I mean, Peacock would make a lot of sense because that's Universal's. Yep. Yeah, I could see it on Sci-Fi as well, to be fair. It's a bit cheaper, admittedly, to do it on Sci-Fi, but it would work.
Yeah, as I said, depends on the budget of it, but it would. Not that I want it.
When it says
the movie is not good.
when it says the movie's characters, are we actually going to get like the character that Kevin Costner played by a different actor? Is that what they're saying there?
That or like just some of the other people who were in it.
The B tier characters.
Yeah. The ones
okay.
who no one really remembers, and they could just go, "Hey, they were in the movie. Come on."
Look, I don't necessarily think the concept of the movie, which is like everything's underwater, is a bad idea for a sci-fi movie. It's just the movie's not good. So
Yeah, it's just it's underwater Mad Max. It is what it's supposed to be.
yes. So I have no problem with them trying, because this could be good, and if it's good, it'd be like, well, they did it right this time.
Imagine if this is the Waterworld Fury Road.
That's a bit disingenuous because there was good Mad Max before Fury Road.
No, there was, but there was. But I just mean like in terms of just coming back all these years later, and there were a lot of people like, why? And then you saw why.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they can prove me wrong.
Yes, Waterworld Fury Tides or something. I don't know.
They can come up with a title. That's their job, not mine. Angry Waves.
Netflix is at it again. They're developing a live-action Pokemon movie or TV show.
I mean, I take back everything I've said about Netflix tonight.
There are no details yet, but Lucifer co-showrunner and EP Joe Henderson is attached to write the series and executive produce. Pokemon, you got someone who's like catching Pokemon and evolving them, and they use them to fight battles or something. That's my understanding of the.
It's the broad strokes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they don't mention, I assume, if they want to tell an original story, if they want to adapt some of the, the classic stuff. But I would hope for an original story, because there's been, decades of anime at this point of just, here's the Ash Ketchum story of he goes through a thing and he catches all the stuff and he beats the gyms and he fights the early four and oh look, he's the champion now. And then new season, let's do it in the next one.
That's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be the live action telling of that. There's no way they're not going to do just the obvious story that is the fundamental basis of what Pokemon's been.
You'd say, because that's my instinct is, of course, that's what they're gonna do, because I'm cynical. But then the first live action Pokemon movie was Detective Pikachu, and that was not that at all. So who knows? Maybe.
We'll see. Next up, Portal A, the production company backed by Brent Montgomery's Wheelhouse, as well as Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's Pearl Street Films. They're going to be producing a new series. I'm just trying to see if there's a title for this because I don't know if I
was going to say, tell us, what is this new series?
I'm trying to scan and see if there's a title specifically, but I'll read the description. The series is sci-fi action horror drama, a lot of genres, set in Atlanta against the backdrop of an insidious alien invasion disguised as an epidemic.
Okay.
It follows two rival sisters on the front lines, a paramedic and a CDC microbiologist, who uncover the true nature of the outbreak and must put aside their personal baggage in order to stop the invasion from spreading. This feels like something that we're not all in the mood for right now. Is that because of personal baggage along with the professional part?
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that surely has to count.
I am fine with that counting. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Who's wanting this right now?
Yeah, a conspiracy about a pandemic? No one wants this.
It's like the worst possible idea. Sometimes executives just baffle me.
Oh, here it is. The title, that is.
You finally found it.
Reaver X Spectre, or I guess it'll be Cross Spectre, but whatever. That's the title of the original story.
Reaver Spectre.
They're probably going to. Yeah, they'll probably change it.
There's probably a reason that was buried.
Well, it's because it came after a list of like whatever other things they're working on, so it just looked like another thing they'd worked on already.
How weird.
Because I mentioned that they're working on The Last Duel and they're doing City on a Hill, which are all TV shows that they're working with. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know why anyone would want this right now. I'm a bit baffled by its decision in the first place, but hey, there we go. Okay. Jessica Rhodes is developing hour-long series Nice Jewish Girls for Netflix, created by Annie Weisband. That's my first look deal that they've got. Loosely based on Weisband's family members, Nice Jewish Girls is a darkly comedic one-hour family crime drama about four sisters in the aftermath of a death in the family. They know they would do anything for each other, but they come to realize they don't know everything about each other.
Okay.
Not a lot to go on.
No, it sounds just okay, crab drama, pretty typical right now. But I don't know, maybe it's got flair to it.
Yeah, all right. Well, next up, Octavia's Butler's novel Fledgling is getting adapted at HBO. They've ordered a pilot script for the project, which comes from Lovecraft Country writers and co-EPs Sonia Winton Odmitten and Jonathan I. Kidd. Notably, not Misha Green, who was at the head of the show, but so they're still working with people.
But also, I guess no more of that's happening, so we best go find other jobs.
Very lately, which it's a shame. It's a shame because season 2 was mapped out. There was a pitch document. It's not upsetting that it's not happening, but hey, so Fledgling is a sci-fi vampire novel.
Oh, I'm familiar with.
Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
Okay. So first sci-fi writer to receive the MacArthur Fellowship was Butler. So that's interesting. Which was published a year before her death in 2005. Oh, that's sad. It's a story of an apparently amnesic young girl whose alarmingly inhuman needs and abilities lead her to a startling conclusion. She is, in fact, a genetically modified 53-year-old vampire. Forced to discover... that's an interesting age, actually. I'm so used to vampires being 22, because they want, like, the sexy vampire kind of thing, yes. Right?
Thank you, CW.
Forced to discover what she can about her stolen former life, she must at the same time learn who wanted and still wants to destroy her and those she cares for, and how she can save herself. So, sci-fi vampire is basically the key word you need to take from this.
Which, honestly, very rarely works out well, in my experience.
I don't know if I've encountered much sci-fi vampires.
We've watched at least one or two shows that have tried to do it.
Have we?
Yeah, we definitely have. It was like a Vampire War one. We definitely watched that. I don't remember the name of it, but it was...
Oh, Van Helsing, which was the Vanessa Helsing show?
There was that. No, I'm thinking of a different one as well, I think there's like two. I'm sure we've covered a couple.
I'll take your word for it.
And the fact that you're struggling to remember them even existing kind of proves my point.
Maybe this will be the one, though.
Maybe it will.
Yeah, maybe this will be the one that proves that it can work. This will be the example that's held up. It is HBO after all, so I mean, it's maybe got a better chance than some sci-fi show or whatever network some of these were on.
God knows.
Next up, Epics, because everyone's favorite places in Epics for their TV shows. They've read out the regular cast for a show called From, which is a really annoying title. I mean, with all due respect to him, did Jordan Peele title this? From. It's upcoming contemporary sci-fi horror series. Sean Majumder from Race Against the Tide, Avery Conrad from Sacred Lies, Hannah Sharami from Van Helsing, Simon Webster from When Hope Calls, Ricky He from The Good Doctor, Chloe Van Lanskut from Skin, and Piga Gafuri from Hello au revoir. Obviously,
You know, you said it was contemporary sci-fi horror. I think you just said.
yes, yes.
Maybe you cracking that Jordan Peele title is actually quite intentional on their part.
Oh, yeah, maybe it is. But
Doesn't make it good, but maybe that's what they're trying to evoke.
it's produced by Midnight Radio, with a team of names such as Andre Nami, Jeff Pinkner, and Scott Rosenberg. Now, Jeff Pinkner, I believe, was someone who worked on Fringe, but I'm pulling that from a vague notion, so I could be wrong, but I think so. From unravels the mystery of a nightmarish town in Middle America that traps all those who enter. As the unwilling residents fight to keep a sense of normalcy and search for a way out, they must also survive the threats of the surrounding forest, including the terrifying creatures that come out when the sun goes down.
Feels very Lovecrafty.
Yeah, you've got a town
Always
that's...
residents succumbing to madness.
Yeah, you've got a town that no one can get in or out of. The people are trapped inside, need to deal with these monsters. Yeah, there's just potential here.
I get the impression that people can get into it, they just can't leave. So that's like, where are you from?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. But does it let anyone in, or does it only let specific people that it's pulled in? Like it's...
Well, that's part of the story, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like it's anyone at first until it turns out it's not.
Yes. Turns out they're all descendants of gingers.
Oh, that is terrifying. I mean, applies to a lot of Europe, but still. Just a recessive gene.
Next up, Caillou Wu, the Flash and Hannibal writer. They've teamed up.
Mixed bag.
I'd say it's mostly a bad bag, to be honest. Well, it depends when.
Depends early Hannibal or late Hannibal.
Nah, for me, it's early Flash or late Flash. I don't like Hannibal that much, but
it applies to both. Then I guess.
So anyway, Kai's teamed up with author and screenwriter Cherie Desmalines to adapt a horror novel by them called Empire of Wild. They're working with Fable Entertainment. In the novel, which was published in 2019, it's grounded in indigenous folklore and follows Joan a year after her husband's disappearance as she desperately tries to bring him back from the nefarious religious organization and supernatural forces that have claimed him.
Okay.
Being
alright.
That sounds okay. The writer is known for a young adult novel, but this is not listed as a young adult novel.
I mean, that means it's probably not one, because if it was a young adult novel, they'd love to shout about that.
Yeah, they just say that, yeah. Now, the young adult novel they're known for is The Marrow Thieves.
I have heard of that.
So, yeah. Empire of Wild is the title of that one. Alright, next up. Going to Apple TV Plus now. Vince Vaughn is going to star and executive produce in Bad Monkey, a drama written and executive produced by Ted Lasso co-creator Bill Lawrence. And I've been hearing a lot of positive things about Ted Lasso. People seem to really like it.
From everything I gather, it's extremely positive and uplifting, and people were very happy to have that last year. And it's I think it's based around a fictional football team. I think football is in soccer. Is what I'm aware. That's about as much as I'm aware of what the show is.
Yeah. So this has received a 10-episode order at Apple TV Plus, based on Carl Hiaasen's popular 2013 novel Bad Monkey. It's been in the works at Apple's for a while. It tells the story of Andrew Yancey, a one-time detective demoted to restaurant inspector in southern Florida. A severed arm found by a tourist out fishing pulls Yancey into a world of greed and corruption that decimates the land and environment in both Florida and the Bahamas. And yes, there's a monkey.
That is just outlandish enough to be intriguing.
Yeah, if this has got a bit of humor to it, that he's like a restaurant inspector who ends up investigating a murder.
Because Florida.
But it doesn't treat it too seriously. It's got an air of like, oh, he's drawn into this. How silly is this?
A little bit, not like entirely comedy, but a little bit tongue in cheek, a little bit dark humor.
Yeah, just a little bit.
This could be kind of fun.
Yeah. What I don't want is something where it tries to treat restaurant inspectors like they would be investigating this under normal circumstances. Like it's a normal thing for them to actually.
I assume. I mean, if it was me, the premise would. If that's the premise, the reason would be he'd be trying to prove that he can solve this so he can get back to being a detective.
Oh sure, but I'm thinking the same way that. Like, I've never watched Baywatch, but I always got the impression that, the lifeguards in Baywatch solve a lot of crimes that are on the beach.
Yes. Because they're on the beach. That's how it works.
And how many times do we joke about how networks keep finding new divisions of law enforcement to make shows about?
How many acronyms you got?
Yeah. Oh, this is this is the Coast Guard, or this is the naval, forces, or this is the FBI or the CIA or all the normal ones that you think of first. Yep. I remember, but I remember there was one about a year ago that we laughed our heads off at. That is this a thing? Is this like an actual division? And it probably is, but doesn't necessarily mean
I don't remember what it was, but I remember laughing.
Yeah. So there you go. Next up, Mexican filmmaking duo the Munoz brothers, who made the 2019 comedy drama Paper Boats.
The name rings a bell, so I'm sure maybe it got some buzz, but I don't think I watched it.
So they're going to adapt Kristen Helga Gunnarsdottir's young adult novel. I had fun saying that one.
That's a very Scandinavian name, isn't it?
I had fun saying that one. Iceland's Mountain Factory. That's the title. Or the book anyway. Maybe they'll change it. But Iceland's Mountain Factory. The book is inspired by the Greta Thunberg movement. It follows a group of young graduates from a mountaineering academy in the southeast of Iceland who get stuck in a fierce storm, taking refuge in an old hut, where they decide to set up a free state dedicated to nature and sustainability. When one of the girls in the group, an established environmental activist and influencer, is found dead one morning, everything changes. So they set up their own little state. They're like, this is ours now, we've got our own laws.
Yep.
And then, not before long, there's been a murder.
There always is. There's always the first murder in paradise.
It's pretty high concept.
That's a classic staple, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny because it says based on the Greta Thunberg movement, and I get what they're saying thematically, I suppose, but it's a bit of a stretch. Like I imagine someone telling her, "Oh, by the way, there's a book written that was based kind of on you."
And it's kind of weird, like hearing this news today, where we just had the IPCC report of, yeah, we're all screwed. Like, that's like how bad it was, and then you've got this show like going, yeah, we're gonna make a show in this.
It's funny to me because just imagining her like hearing there's a show kind of based on you. She goes, oh, what do you mean based on me? In terms of like, is it about someone who goes around, speaks and tries to raise awareness and stuff like that? It's like, oh no, it's about this group of activists who form their own state and then there's a murder. like, oh, okay.
It's so interesting that sounds so high concept, but it's kind of not. Like the idea of the first murder in a society is such an old literature staple that.
Oh sure.
Surely it's just going to be that, but with a very slight twist on the setting.
All right, next up, WWE with Blumhouse Television.
Yeah, I'll ignore this one.
Are developing a scripted series about Vince McMahon, who is the owner of WWE.
It's just going to be like one of those biopics where they have to get permission from the place. Everything's really, really glowing, and there's nothing damning in there at all.
Here's the thing: it's going to tell. It's called United States of America versus Vince McMahon, and it's going to be telling mostly about the early '90s, where there was the trials for the steroid abuse and things like that. And all I can think upon reading this, the WWE themselves are producing this show about.
Can't possibly imagine what side it'll be taking.
I'm sure it'll be completely unbiased and there'll be no sugarcoating of anything. That's coming from the company that will lie about attendance figures to make themselves look better, even though those numbers can now be checked. Like, to this day they claim that WrestleMania 3 was like 90-something thousand people in attendance and it broke the indoor attendance record, but the actual real figure is like 72 or something like that. Which is still very impressive. It's great. It's a great number. Like, no one's going to argue how great that is, but I guess because it was harder to check back then.
You just get away with it.
Yeah. So you know, it is what it is. You know, wrestling by its nature is a carny business, meaning there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of sugarcoating truths, and there's a lot of just blatant misinformation. And Vince McMahon and that company is responsible for so much misinformation over the years, almost on a regular basis, where you kind of just get used to, if you pay attention to it, you get used to kind of the buzzwords and the nonsense, and when they're just bullshitting you, and when something's just code for something went wrong, but we were not willing to admit that there's a mistake or tell you that something is wrong. Or, I mean, hell, even right now, like, they are regularly pumping fake crowd noise into their shows to make it sound like the audience care more about what's going on than they actually do. And we trust them to tell it. That Vince McMahon, see in the early 2000s, there was admittedly not in the right, this group, right? But there was like a parent TV association or something like that who were going after wrestling and saying that, oh, a bunch of kids died because they were mimicking moves. And it turned out it was a lie, right? So they were in the wrong. They were a bunch of assholes who were trying to like extort and lie about things to win lawsuits and whatnot. And Vince McMahon sued the crap out of them. But while this was all going on, he actually made a group of characters in the company just to mimic them, just to make fun of them and, you know, mock the people that he didn't like that were causing him. Like, it's just an example of the attitude.
He did not have a good lawyer, did he? Like, regardless of whether or not he won the case, any good lawyer would be like, do not engage. Do not publicly engage. That's like rule number one.
Well, no, I mean, he didn't use the same name or anything. There was just, you know.
You don't need to use the names to.
Yeah, there was a group called Right to Censor who would come out and try to stop violent things or anything with any kind of like sexual.
I remember
quality.
all those movements.
Yeah,
they did a lot of games as well.
Yeah. Well, no, the group in the wrestling company was called Right to Censor. The actual group was like the Parents TV. You know, it was art. I think it was like,
but there was a lot of those around the time.
Yeah, I think the real thing was the PTC, and he had a group called the RTC, who was going around doing this in character. So I expect this will be a completely unbiased approach to this topic, and there won't be any, you know, because this company lies constantly and retroactively changes history so that it fits the narrative that they like. You know, and they'll lie about things that don't even matter, that no one would care about. They'll say things like,
that sounds shockingly familiar to a certain recent president,
who's been
who may or may not have lied about attendance figures of certain events. And
that certain president may also be friends with Vince McMahon and is actually engaged in the company in a couple of instances. It's straight up carny nonsense. It really is. The only reason why anyone should be interested in this is just to see how laughably bad it might be at trying to rewrite history and make him look like a
very reasonable, perfectly nice man.
Oh, I'd go further than that. He'll look like a hero, like he was fighting a good fight when nasty people came after his industry, and he was standing up for the little guy, even though he's like horrible to everyone that works for him. And
I know, let's be honest, my wrestling knowledge is next to none.
Yes.
And even I know this guy's reputation.
Oh, he's horrible. He is, and so much of this is like, you know, not completely confirmed, but there's so many stories over the year that even if half of them are true, like, he's a monster. Like
it's like he's got such a reputation that it has gone beyond, like, right? It's like the idea of people who don't, you know, watch, you know, football, like, you know, soccer. You know, you, for example, you know, the idea of FIFA being corrupt, that's not surprising. Everyone knows that, right? It's kind of like it just permeates public consciousness.
Yeah.
That's what's happened here.
Yeah. So this nothing good will come of this, except maybe the blatant lies, which might lead to some hilarity.
I will say one thing good will probably come of it.
What's that?
Memes.
There could be memes. And to be fair, Vince McMahon is good for a meme. There's a lot of memes.
He is, yeah.
That's come from his overacting. And that's the sad part of it. He's a very good character when he's playing himself in the show. He was very good. I mean, he basically became the villain for years which is what kind of in part drove the success of their biggest boom period in history. But that do you want to know how that started? How he became that? Because it wasn't planned for him to be an uncharacter villain. It happened because he intentionally screwed one of their biggest talents, in like a non-scripted way on TV, and enough people knew about it that it got him heat. You know, it got him boos, it got him like some hatred. So he had to stop just being a commentator like he was before, and it kind of turned into a character that he then capitalized on. Which is one of the things that wrestling's oddly quite good at, or it should be good at, is that when there's a bit of truth to something, you then kind of spin it into storylines and sort of take it and be like, well, now he's actually a monster, so we'll use that, and now he's a monster on screen, kind of thing.
I would like the record to show
Yes.
that I did not go this deep into Lord of the Rings, and I could have done. I showed some restraint.
Vince McMahon's a horrible piece of shit. So, and I feel fairly strongly on that at this point. The fact that, you know, Owen Hart plummeted to his death in the middle of a show, and they didn't like stop the show and let like a crime scene be set up and investigate it, or the fact that this, you know, reports that have been at least corroborated by a few people that one of his wrestlers was raped, and he basically asked her to cover it up because he didn't want his reputation or his relationship with the military to be harmed, because they'd have to accuse someone in the military of doing it, and just things like that. And that's like more of the heinous stuff, and that's even getting away from the horrible business practices and how he treats his employees, and you know, changes his mind on a whim and fires people, or his like mean competitive spirit and shady underhanded tactics. Like the guy's awful. Like there's no doubt that he is just a terrible human being.
But before you move on to the next story, can I just throw in one that I know you've forgotten, because it's dawned on me that it should have been mentioned a long time ago. Okay. It's just a little thing, but it's good news.
What is it?
The Bad Batch, Star Wars: The Bad Batch.
This is not good news.
Was renewed for season 2.
This is terrible news.
And you know, season 2 is coming in 2022. That is fantastic news.
Terrible
news. How can you not want to watch the adventures of a bunch of clone family? It's just so wholesome and great TV content that is so much more entertaining than wrestling nonsense.
Look, it was in the news. It was interesting. Here we are. Final story of the episode.
If I'd known that was going to be the final story, I'd wait till afterwards.
Yes, but now you look a fool, and I'm okay with that.
Damn it.
So, Prime has set their first scripted Canadian original.
Only just?
Only just, yeah. I guess there's enough overlap with like the US that technically they're just all US originals, but this one's specifically a Canadian original. It's called The Lake. Jordan Gervais from Orphan Black, Julia Stiles from, you know, the Bourne movies and other things.
Stuff.
And Madison Chamon, apologies if I'm mispronouncing that, from Blackish, are going to star in a half-hour comedy. Why is this at the end? I must have just misplaced this. Produced,
God damn it.
Produced by Amaze.
How? You have like one format. That's it. The comedy's going to the comedy segment. This is a final news story. This is usually your network. So this is something stupid. Oh no, it's a half-hour comedy at the end here. Damn it.
Look, this news was collected in more than 2 batches because of the delays, because we were meant to record this over a week ago and it got delayed.
There's no excuse.
So yes, this is filming in Ontario from August to September, for a launch sometime in 2022. The Lake Center
finish filming by September. It'll probably be early next year.
The Lake centers on the quintessential Canadian cottage experience. Oh my!
What is the quintessential Canadian cottage experience?
I don't know. Justin,
are we about to be enlightened?
Returns from living abroad after a breakup with his long-term partner, in the hope of reconnecting with the biological daughter that he gave up for adoption in his teens. His plans to create new memories with his city-loving daughter Billy at an idyllic lake from his childhood go awry when he finds out his father left the family cottage to his picture-perfect stepsister, Maisie May. Okay. So
It
3.
didn't even tell me what a quintessential Canadian cottage.
It didn't. I mean, it's set at a cottage on a lake. That's what it's telling me. But
I'm disappointed.
so he goes to this lake house. He wants to get to know his daughter that he abandoned, but his stepsister, who he presumably doesn't like very much, is already living there. So they're going to agree to live together, and you get a mismatch of 3 characters who either don't know or don't like each other very much.
It was a sitcom.
It's a sitcom. Yes. But hey, there you go. That's your last news story.
What a disappointing bombshell to end on.
With you like have anything to add? Oh no, you already used the thing. You'd,
Screw you. But I got good news this time. You know, I got interesting Doctor Who news. I got exciting Lord of the Rings news. I'm happy.
Then I have failed.
Yeah, try harder next time.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry. It's going to happen.
It sounded like such a threat.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Maybe we've derailed a bit, but we'll be back on track. And the train will pull into the station. At your misery. It was off camera there mostly, but Carl just crushed his can out of anger.
I assumed you could hear it.
It was pretty faint. It was pretty faint.
Oh, okay. Well, this mic is more directional than I thought.
Oh, by the way, it was on the movie news rather than the TV news, and there's no movie news that we're doing with this because this wasn't a lot of movie news when I went looking for it. But like, lot of praise for me torturing you with the Green Knight news. People thought that was hilarious. So,
Do you know what? A24 announced that they're streaming it online. One night only. Next Wednesday. At like 2 a.m. our time. And you have to use a VPN to watch it, obviously, because it's US.
Yes, it's a US thing, yes.
But although weirdly, when I open it, it gives me the time. It tells me 2 a.m. BST. It doesn't give it me in American time. I don't know if I'm working or not. And it's one night only.
Well, apparently, me making you miserable equals ratings. So, I hope that you're working late.
I suddenly despise our audience.
I hope you get back in from work like just like 20 minutes after it starts.
Oh, so that would be pain. That would be worse than just working
the whole time. Yes, I want you to miss it just enough that you can't start it.
Like if I miss it by like five minutes, because here's the thing: if I get out on a really good night, like a really good night, if I'm on that late shift, I could be home by 5 to 2. If on a great night, and it's too late for me to try and get the day off.
This is hilarious. I know what we're all hoping for. We're all hoping for Connor to be working late.
I'm not happy for that. We had a nice midnight finish on Wednesday. Don't
worry. Next news will update you on if Connor can watch
my endeavours to whether or not I managed to watch.
Although I'm sure there'll be some angry or happy tweets, one way or the other. If you know, come the day of, especially if it's like a maybe because you don't know if you get home in time. Delightful news. Alright, that's been the Email Fuzz TV news. Thank you very much for joining us. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you very much to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Born Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. That is one of the higher tiers, of course, on Patreon to be our producer, but you can support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble and help keep all the content coming. So if you want to do that, go and have a look. But you can also support us for free by simply hitting the like button, subscribing, dinging the bell for notifications. All those things do help YouTube channels out quite a bit, so please do. And of course, get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. And also have a look over at Mailed Fuzz Movies for the movie podcasts such as Screams After Midnight, The Sacred Hockey Mask, The Atomic Cinema Experiment, all the movie-related shows over there. And movie news when indeed it happens. But yes.
So if apparently you missed the last one and you want to see me being tortured over the green now, well, that's where you go.
Yes, you can go over there. So check out that. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?